Hello there. You thought you were done with me while I was gone, but I'm going to try to do a pretty short video here to provide some additional information on kind of the fit and inside out versus outside in. So here we go. Uh, I think here we go. Ah, there you go. So we know when we're thinking about fit, our old friend ESBC. Uh, you've got to collect information on each of these boxes kind of independently. Anytime you're looking at a company, trying to figure out what's going on. So, the environment, you're really trying to answer the question, what does it take to compete in the industry? Looking for things like drivers of change and key survival factors. In terms of strategy, you want to remember that we're looking at product and market focus, value proposition, and core activities. We're identifying each of those for the firm. And then we're considering business capabilities in the areas of operations, customer, and innovation. And kind of inputs to that would be our resources, our management preferences, and the way we organize. Once you've got information in each of the three areas, then you can begin to compare across and look for fit. And what you're really looking for, are there any gaps? All right, does the strategy allow the firm to deal with what it takes to compete in the industry? Is it a reasonable position to try to uh, put the firm in? And then do the capabilities support that strategy? So, our basic fit model. But we have talked about outside in versus inside out, and I want to look briefly at kind of how each of those or what differences there might be in going through this process, depending on whether you're more outside in or inside out. So, bear with me as we kind of go to a flow chart here. So, if we are thinking outside in, it starts in an outside in with the environment. Remember that this is kind of the economic approach, industry structure. So we start by considering things in the environment and look for the fit between environment and strategy. All right. If we find a good fit there, all right, if our answer is yes, then we move on and begin to ask, okay, do we have the capabilities to support this strategy that we built based on the environment? If our answer is yes, now we've got a solution and we're done. Life's usually not that easy though. So what happens if there is not really a fit between the environment and the strategy? Well, then you can look at changes needed to the strategy to achieve environment strategy fit. You might look at a change in the product or market focus or a change in the value proposition to make sure that what the firm is doing is in better alignment with the environment. Once you get that, then you're back to the fit between strategy and capabilities. What if that is a no? Well, then you need to, in this model, remember the assumption is that you can kind of find the capabilities, acquire, develop the capabilities needed. So if you've got gaps between what's demanded by the strategy and what the firm has, then you can look at filling those gaps. Okay? And do make sure you go back to chapter 4 and kind of look at in the slides, particularly where we talked about the process for resources and capabilities for outside in, and then differing approaches if you are more inside out. Here on the outside in, again, we're looking at, do the capabilities support the strategy that was built on the environment? If there are some that you need but don't have, then you try to see if you can develop or acquire those. That hopefully gets you to overall fit. And you're done. If that still doesn't get you, then you go back and recycle and start looking at other strategic possibilities that might better fit with the capabilities you have. So that's kind of the outside-in approach graphically. If you put it in words, and I will make sure that these get posted to Blackboard, it goes something like this. Begin by analyzing the environment, past 5 forces, etc., to understand what it takes to compete in the industry and what strategic approaches might be possible. Look at the environment strategy fit. All right. Does the strategy do what is needed to compete? Is it among the viable strategic approaches that you looked at? And then evaluate the strategy capabilities fit, as I talked about, right? What does the firm currently have? What does it need to support the strategy? Is there a fit? If yes, you're good. If no, then you need to make a decision about what is missing, how big, can you acquire it, how much would it take? And if you can fill the gaps, do, because you know the strategy meets the environment. Now the capabilities will support the strategy. If, however, it's not practical to fill, then you're back to that recycling. All right? So that's the outside in. Inside out is a lot messier, and I'm not going to go through everything here. I'm just going to fly some things in. But it starts with, do we have any business capabilities that meet the valuable, rare, inimitable, and non-substitutable criteria? All right. Remember that when we're analyzing that, we do have to consider the environment to think about whether something is valuable or rare, because that's dependent on the environment. So our focus is on capabilities, but we still have to bring in some environmental analysis. If the answer is yes, we're good. We can move on. Ask if the strategy builds on those capabilities that meets the Bren criteria. If it's yes, then we look at the fit between environment and strategy, feeling pretty good. If the strategy does not build on the right capabilities, then we need to modify it and then move back to the environment. Now we've got a good overall fit. Again, that life would be nice if all this worked, but sometimes we start out and our answer is no. All right. And then we got to ask, can the capabilities be developed to meet Bren? If yes, then we're good and we move back to everything else. If no, though, we don't have any capabilities that meet Bren criteria, well, then we might want to think about reverting to an outside-in approach. So, again, well, let me make sure. Okay. Let me do this one again in words because the diagram, it's interesting. I think it's right, but it's pretty messy. In the inside out, you begin by analyzing the firm's capabilities, operational, customer, and innovation. You compare those with information from the environment to help determine if any of the capabilities meet Bren. If they meet Bren, or maybe at least valuable and rare for a temporary advantage, you look to build on them. Then you move to the strategy and you say, does the product and market focus, does the value proposition, do the core activities build on and leverage the capabilities that met Bren, or at least valuable and rare from your earlier analysis? If they do, you're good and you can move on to the environment. If they don't, then you need to adjust the strategy to make sure they do leverage the key capabilities. Now you're over to the environment strategy fit. Remember, you're going to feel pretty good about this if capabilities meet the valuable and rare, because you already looked at the environment to establish that. But then you do want to come back and look at the strategies as a whole and make sure it meets the key success factors and what it takes to compete in the industry. All right, if that answer is yes, then you're good to go. You got to fit all the way across and you move on. If no, well, remember the inside out takes a little more blue ocean. Maybe we can influence the environment. Maybe we can tweak the strategy so that it does fit. All right, but if it's still no, then you might need to recycle or consider taking an outside-in approach. All right, so basic model of fit here. All right, but again, a little different in how we come about it and how we use the various tools and pieces, depending whether we're outside in and inside out. Again, do make sure that you go back and look through uh, the environment chapter and look through particularly the resources and capabilities, both the chapter and the slides where we kind of talked about differences between outside in and inside out. Hope all that helps.